Hiya guys and welcome back. Today we've got a very special guest and we've got the Scottish legend Wolfman's Got Nards. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. We appreciate it.
No, not a problem. And thanks for having me on, Curtis and Jenks. It's an honour. I know that you guys haven't been doing this as long as myself, but it was Darren from The Slaughtered Lamb that made me aware of your guys' channel.
Oh,
And I've
brilliant.
been binge watching your stuff, which is brilliant. And again, your accents are similar to mine, where only you guys will probably understand your own accents. So
Yes,
I think we'll
yes.
fit in pretty well with each other.
It'll be the best video ever or the worst because nobody would understand a word we say.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've noticed when I first started the channel, I've toned my accent down slightly, a little bit organically, and I was aware I was like I'm a little bit too Welsh. So I asked Darren when we had him on a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and he said, "No, it sounds all right, but maybe he's just used to sort of being a British guy."
Yeah, no, I get it. Welsh is fine to me. Like it's
Yeah.
not a problem at all. But I'm the same as you. I think the way I'm speaking just now is more polite than I normally speak off air. I speak totally Glaswegian off air.
And
So
swearing a lot more.
exactly, yeah. So I over enunciate all my words when I'm speaking to you guys
Yeah.
and when I'm speaking online and on YouTube. But if I'm talking to someone from Glasgow, it's just like totally changes
Oh,
to
definitely.
Talking
only
like
what Glaswegians would understand.
you're talking like Rabsy Nesbitt level, is there?
Even worse than him. He's polite compared to me.
I suppose the Americans watching this won't know who the fuck
No,
Rabsy Nesbitt is.
no.
No,
Watch
not at
Rap
all.
C if you're from America though.
Yeah, it's awesome. What we're gonna do? We both each all got two picks. Underrated British horror. So do you want to kick it off with your pick, Barry?
What one should I go with first? I'll save the best to last.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So my first pick is underrated is Eden Lake from 2008.
Awesome.
When I say it's underrated, I chose this one before I looked at IMDb because I thought maybe because my other pick, which I won't mention yet, it's only got like 13,000 votes on IMDb, so it is quite a low
Yeah.
known movie. But when I checked Eden Lake, it's got almost 100,000 votes. So I think a film like Eden Lake is kind of picked up over the years, over 15,
Yeah.
16 years. So I think it's become more popular now, especially with the cast, because when I first watched Eden Lake, it's the cast I didn't know. But now when you watch
Yeah.
it back, it's Kelly O'Reilly. Is it Kelly Riley or Kelly O'Reilly? Kelly Riley and Michael Fassbender, and obviously
We got
I'm forgetting
Jack
Jack
O'Connell as
O'Connell.
well.
Jack
He's
Connell,
Yeah.
huge
yes,
now.
yes, Skins
Uh,
guy, yeah.
Sean
Thomas
from This Is England.
Thomas Turgoose,
Thomas
yeah, him.
Turgoose, yeah.
So yeah, you look at the cast now and you're like, whoa, this is quite a big movie. So I think
It's
more people are,
stacked.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely stacked. Yeah, but back then you're like, these guys are pretty good. Hopefully they make a career out of what they're doing. But yeah, Eden Lake, should we include spoilers in this
It's
video?
up to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. Might as well. But yeah, Eden Lake. For those of you who don't know, it's about this couple that go to the woods. I don't know why, but they go to the woods for a kind of romantic couple day out.
Worst date
And
ever.
yeah, exactly. And I think those of you from the UK, so you guys will understand this, but when you see these, we call them Neds in Scotland, in Glasgow. I don't know if you call them chavs or whatever.
Chavs,
Chavs,
yes.
Chavs,
yeah.
yeah.
Scumbags,
Yes,
scumballs.
anything you want. So these Neds, chavs, they're hanging about the beach and they're doing what normal chavs do. But then they cross that line, and then when they cross the line, that's when the horror begins. And right up to the very end, it gets to a point where it still feels so realistic and visceral because I've came across chavs all the time. I'm from Glasgow, so we're the
Yeah.
capital for the chavs.
We are
But
chavs.
exactly, yeah, we're all chavs. But and I used to be a chav, but not to that extent. When I was a kid, I would run around and I don't know, like throw eggs and stuff like that as a normal
Yeah,
kid
yeah.
would do. But the kids in this movie, although they're doing annoying things at the beginning, you don't expect them to go to the point to no
Yeah.
return, and that's exactly what they do. And I feel like the message for Eden Lake is you are what your parents are, and that is
100%.
yeah, that's exactly how it seems to the very end of Eden Lake because we find out that Kelly Riley's character manages to escape these chavs after her partner died. She gets to the parents, doesn't realize it's the parents, but she gets to the parents, and it turns out they're just like their kids, or the kids are just like them, and it'll
Yeah.
be rinse and repeat. So I think the film's got a really strong and deep message, especially in
Yeah.
the UK, because you are what your parents are as well. And I
Yeah.
think Eden Lake does it brilliantly, but brutally as well. You know.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it when I saw it. And there's a couple of bits I didn't like. When they're by the lake and the boys are playing the music too loud, and Michael Fassbender goes over and presses the button, turns it off, and I was thinking, you're asking for trouble now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm nitpicking. I'm just I enjoyed it. And it's very tense, and it's got that British sort of unease because it's low budget, so the acting and the characterization has got to be better. You haven't got the sort of
Yeah.
Hollywood bells and whistles. That's why I like
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, it's an absolute cracking film. This is one I actually go back to a lot. I almost had it on my list, but like you said at the start, Barry, I didn't think this one was as underrated as the ones I eventually picked. But I've got two gripes for this movie, right?
Okay.
One of them, right? Nothing too big, right?
Not
Nothing
the
to do
ghetto
with the
blaster bit,
story
no.
itself, right? It is a brutal movie, and I do like this film. But there's two bits, right? Is when she gets in the bin in one scene, and you can see it's a bit smelly and there's shit at the bottom. But when the guys come then and walk across, she like puts her head in and closes it. And then when she comes back up, she's covered head to toe in this shit, as if she's just been rolling about in this bin like
Maybe she has.
it's not.
Maybe she
And
dropped them in.
there's and one of the boys in it has a fresh haircut. One scene, he's got like long scruffy hair, and then it cuts to another scene. He's got a nice little skin fade, like.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
Didn't notice that at
Do
all.
you know what?
See,
I've seen
Barry,
it too many times. Too many
Barry, you
times.
thought I was the nitpicker now, yeah?
Oh yeah,
And it's changed now. You can see, you care about like a really low budget.
I guess maybe it's because Curtis just likes it so much, he has to give us a negative.
Yes.
And
100%.
yeah,
That's
so the
your rule
negative
as well,
is
Jenk.
don't get your hair cut halfway through the filming.
Curtis will spot it. I
No,
call
no,
bullshit.
It's a fantastic film, and Jack O'Connell is absolutely terrifying in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Some of the scariest teenagers ever, and definitely one of the best villains to come out of Britain. He is horrific in this film, and it's got some of the most unsettling and nastiest scenes you will ever see, specifically involving Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible film, and it ends horrible too.
Yeah. I
So
think I was going to say, I think the way we feel about like the chavs in the film and the way we feel how it goes because it's so realistic to us, I feel
yes,
like we understand that more than maybe Americans would understand. And it's vice versa. I'm sure there's American movies that they'll totally get that we don't as well.
Yeah.
And I think Eden
yeah,
Lake
100%.
is our answer to what they experience in their country as well, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wonder, like, if you're an American, you're writing this kind of film, you have to either like eliminate guns from the equation, otherwise the horror is not as good. Whereas we've
Yeah.
got to be more creative in what we can do because
Mhm.
you've got knives, but guns are always like it's a bit like a mobile phone. If I write a story, I got to find a way to get rid of the mobile phone from the character because it kind of ruins horror.
Yeah.
And I think probably guns do it to a certain degree. Maybe I don't know.
I agree with that as well. Yeah, I think guns and mobile phones, you've just got so many options to survive. Whereas in a film like Eden Lake, I think she had a mobile phone at some point, but if you eliminate
yes.
the mobile phones and if you
Yeah.
set it in the UK, you're eliminating most likely the
Yes.
guns as well, so it's harder to
Yeah.
escape.
Yes, great pick. I feel like revisiting that because there was so many good films. When did it come out? It's about good 10 years ago.
2008, 16 years ago.
2008. Oh, there were
Mhm.
so many good films like 20, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
I think maybe we were spoiled for choice and we were like, there's something better. Now that things aren't so good, I think I think we're going back now to going, do you know what? I think I give that film a bit of a hard time when it came out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
Like I watched Life the other day, that film with Ryan Reynolds.
Yes,
like
yeah.
that. And at the time, I thought it was crap. And I watched it the other day on Amazon. I was like, it must have been so many good films out that year for me to think it was crap because
Yeah.
it's a decent sci-fi
I
film.
like that as well. Yeah, it's really
Yeah, it's
good.
a good film.
Yeah. Thanks. That's awesome. What's your pick again, Kurt? Oh, it's going to be some shit now, isn't it?
It's not a beloved movie, no.
At least it's not subtitled.
But do you know, Jenks has to, when we do an underrated video, Jenks has to warn me. He goes, most of the movies you like aren't underrated, they're shit, and you like them. So I have tried to be a bit more classy than I usually am. But my first movie is something I absolutely love. This is one I go back to a lot. and I've got 2004's Creep, directed by Christopher Smith. I love this movie. I can see your face, Jenks.
No, it's not the one with the guy.
No.
No, that's American. You're talking about
Yes,
the
so
subway. The subway.
Franco
yes,
Potente.
not to
seen-
get
yes, that's
confused
it.
with the Netflix
From-
movie from
yes.
Mark Duplass.
Yeah, that's right. The girl from Born, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's a 2004 British horror movie, nothing to do with the movie on Netflix, the found footage movie. And it's a basic movie. It's a one location film. We've got a main girl, Kate. She ends up stuck in the London Underground for the night. And there's this creep roaming about, played by Sean Harris, and brilliantly played by Sean Harris as well. And this movie is ultra violent. It uses the one location perfectly. Now, as I've said many times in this podcast, my favorite horror movies are one location movies. I love it when you can set something in one place and everything revolves around that area. It becomes a character of its own. And this underground station is exactly that. And I just love it. It's atmospheric, it's creepy. The setting, like I said, is brilliant. And still to this day, I watch it, it still gets under my skin, it's still creepy. And what creeps me out the most about this film is I hate rats. Now, if I seen, it's probably the only thing, right, animal or whatever, that we have in the UK. If I seen, I'd shit myself. And like I said, you've got this creep played by Sean Harris, and whenever his presence is around, you can see rats. And it's just horrific. There's a few scenes right after he's been somewhere, you can just see tens of rats. And that to me is the scariest thing in the movie, because
Yeah.
this guy's just knocking about this underground station, followed by rats.
I can't
What are your
remember.
thoughts on this one, guys?
Was he like supernatural, or was he like experimented on or something?
No,
can't
it was
remember.
experimented on. So
Right.
again, it's another good thing about the film is that it does have a payoff. They do explain why he's there, why he looks how he looks.
Yeah.
And this isn't one I've had many conversations about with people that actually like it.
I don't like it.
No, I know
I
you
saw
don't.
it. I thought it was shit. But I only saw it once, and maybe I should give it another chance. But yeah, not my cup of tea.
Definitely go back and give it another watch. The one thing I will say is, I rewatched it, I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I went through a little British horror movie binge, early 2000s, Severance, Creep, Wilderness, all those films. And the script's not very good, right? The dialogue in there is so poor at times. It's some of the most wooden acting I've ever seen. And I'm talking about points now from a film I've just put on my list, right? But that gets overshadowed by the greatness of this setting, the monster, the go, everything. I think it's a top-class film, highly underrated.
Have you seen it, Barry?
I have. I went to the cinema to see it.
Oh, is it?
The funny thing is, before we done this video, I had a list of maybe 5 or 6 films, and I windowed it down to 4. And in 4th place was Creep. So I'm glad I
Yes.
didn't choose it. You know.
See,
So yeah, Creep is one that I loved at the time. The reason I didn't put it in the top 2 for this list is because I haven't seen it for a few years, and I couldn't remember if the Creep was something supernatural or if it was something that was
Yes.
experimented on. But I do remember some scenes where there's this like kind of underground lab, I believe.
yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
remember,
yeah, that's it.
Yes. So I wasn't 100%. So I decided just to keep it off the list just in case I didn't know what I was talking about. But very great setting. And I feel like the acting did feel a little strange. I think
Yeah.
Franca Potente, I'm sure she's German or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she didn't really fit the role of, I think she was supposed to be British. I can't remember. But yeah, I just felt
doing,
the acting was a little corny. But overall, I thought it was a really good, creepy
Yeah.
film. And I love what you say, Curtis. I love films that are set in the one location or like an isolated location,
yes.
all on your own, and you're stuck there for the whole movie.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of it. Creeping, that is definitely one that is most people, especially in the US, probably haven't even heard of.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I
I still
remember-
watch my DVD. I can't find it on Blu-ray.
I remember thinking the same thing of why they didn't just get some Londoner to play this part. They
Yeah.
had a foreign girl. I don't remember if she did an accent. It wasn't like a Dick Van Dyke sort of. But yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I don't mind. Maybe I will give it a chance. I might be, I might be a little bit harsh in it. But I do remember watching it with my wife on DVD, and we were just like, not our cup of tea. Yeah, definitely not. Right, great pick. Right, my one is, when you think of underrated, it's not always that it was a flop. It was just kind of a film that's kind of been forgotten.
Yes, yeah, of
But
course.
mine is The Ritual. Came out a couple of years ago, based on a book by Adam Neville, which I've read, and it's the book is the book is very similar. If you like the film, I'd say the book doesn't do much better difference. I'd say the film is a bit better. The book's a bit fat, and it's just in the woods, and there's a lot of chapters where they just walk in the woods. The gist of the film is you've got Ralph Spall, a guy from Shaun of the Dead. Him and his mates decide to go on a Swedish hike in these woods, no, on the mountains, because their friend got killed, and it was one of his last sort of wishes to do this hike, and they did it to honor him. And something goes wrong, and they have to take a shortcut through these really dense woods in Sweden, which I think they're real, and I think that they are very dangerous. I think they're based on a real sort of area. And they go into the woods, and all hell breaks loose. It's a kind of Blair Witch vibe to it. There's something in the woods, something supernatural. I don't really want to give a spoiler in this because I know a lot of people haven't seen it. It's relatively new, so I think people have got a chance to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say it's very creepy. It does give you a horrible sense of being lost, a bit like the Blair Witch, but a little bit more vast, because you kind of know how vast these woods are before you set in, whereas in the Blair Witch, you don't really know how big the woods are. But you've got a genuine sense of despair, and it's directed by a guy called David Bruckner, and he did a few VHS films, segments, which I know you love, Kurt. I'm pointing as if I means anything. And he also directed the new Hellraiser. Not the best film, not the worst film, better than the sequels. But it's a creepy film, and I would recommend it. Like I said, I think it's on Amazon Prime, or certainly on Netflix. But yeah, have you seen this one, Barry?
I have, yeah, and I feel like I am in the minority where I didn't like it, and I felt
See,
like,
you're
I'm
just
sorry,
ganging up on me now.
I thought I was going to like it. I really did, and I love Bruce Spall, so I thought I'll
Yeah.
give this a chance because it's one of those films where guys that are around our age, they want to go in the woods with their mates because somebody passed away the year before. I thought sounds like a good premise to begin with, and I felt like the film just after everything was getting unveiled, with every unveiling, I was getting taken aback by the story. I'm like, this isn't for me. It's not what I expected it to be, and I just wasn't feeling it. However, I do understand the hype behind it, and I can understand why people do like it as well. So I don't knock it because it's a very well made film, very well directed, very well acted. It's just a film that I couldn't connect with, and because I couldn't connect with it, I just didn't like it. So
I would say it's not one of my favorite films, but I'd say
Don't backtrack now, Jenks.
No.
Don't backtrack.
I don't want to say too much about the ending, but the
Mhm.
ending, the reveal at the end, I would say that any boredom you feel in the woods, kind of that thing at the end elevates it, the big thing. I don't want to spoil, like I said, because it's older films you can spoil, but this is not that old.
Yes.
But yeah, are you a fan of this, Kurt?
Yes, I really like this film. Funnily enough, I rewatched it. I don't know, maybe last month. And I do like it. I have some similar issues to you, Barry. I don't connect with it massively. It's not one I love, but it's a very decent woods movie. There is one scene though that kills me every time. Is when obviously they find that the house in the woods, and that whole scene is just terrifying.
Yeah.
When it kind of cuts and it wakes up to them back in the morning, and they're all just traumatized from whatever has happened to them overnight. And that's kind of like the turning point in the film where like shit's gonna go down now. And I do like it. It's a really good film.
Yeah. Right. Back to you, and Barry. You saved the best for last. It's better be good. It's better be
good. So again, I windowed it down to 4 choices. I windowed it down to 3 choices. One just missed out. I won't mention this one just in case the third one I had, just in case one of you guys have got it for your second choice.
Cool.
But my choice is The Cottage, also from 2008. Have you seen The Cottage, Jenks?
I have seen The Cottage. I'll tell you a quick story for you to cut you off. I walked out of the cinema. I saw most of it. No, I didn't watch. Yeah, I walked out halfway through. I have rewatched it since. It's a pile of shit.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. So,
Carry on. Sorry.
so anyway, so as much as we all love it, this was the first horror movie I went to the cinema to see with my wife
Oh, cool.
that I met in 2007. So in 2008, March 2008, this is the first horror film she came to see with me. She doesn't like horror films, and it did feel like when I was watching it. Now, I'll explain it as best as I can. I wish I didn't see a poster for it, and I wish I didn't see a trailer for it, because the poster and the trailer tell you what it's about. But if
Oh,
you go into
absolutely.
this not knowing, it feels like From Dusk Till Dawn, a film like you're going into a film. Oh, well, this is like a kidnapping movie. What's happening here? And then you don't see the main villain until the 56th minute in this movie, and it's only on for 90 minutes. So you don't see the killer, the farmer, the monster until 56 minutes into the film. So you're watching a film, even though you still kind of forget that there's these two guys, they've kidnapped a girl, they're holding her to ransom, and it all goes tits up. And then after it goes tits up, they try and get away. And that's when the farmer pops up and starts killing everybody. I thought it was fantastic. Now, I haven't seen anything that these guys have made previous, like the League of Gentlemen or anything like that, or Inside Number Nine. I've not seen any of that stuff, so I didn't know what the humor was going to be like. And in fact, I didn't even know this was going to be a funny movie. But when I watched it, I was laughing all the way through
Yeah.
it. I watched it recently and I was laughing all the way through it. I feel like the comedy, and don't hate me for this, but I feel like the comedy is almost as good as, if not equal to, Shaun of the Dead. I feel like the one-liners from everyone, including Jennifer Ellison, was fantastic. There's scenes in it just felt so natural, where she's walking into this room and there's this old vinyl that's playing like a music, and then like slides the needle off it. And she says, "What the fuck is this shit?" Or that's fucking shit. I'm just like, that's hilarious, because she's obviously no know what's happening here, and she's just making stupid jokes. But there's so many great one-liners in it. Andy Serkis is fantastic in it as well. But I think Jennifer Ellison steals the show. So great film. I love the eeriness of the movie as well. Pinhead's in it for a minute. Um,
Yes.
he plays one of the village people, the village people.
Village
Uh, he's singing the
Got an image
YMCA.
in my head now,
with his
pal.
pins.
He's a policeman. So yeah, so the setting again, like what you were saying, Curtis. I love the setting, the mood, the atmosphere is great. Setting it in this little village in the middle of nowhere, and then this little cottage in the middle of nowhere as well. I think the cinematography was great. You know, when you see like
Yeah.
not aerial shots, but far away shots of the cottage. There's just so many great things about the film. The only negative I would have is it's stupid. It's a stupid film.
Yes, of
If
course.
you get into it expecting, like, I don't know, Silence of the Lambs, you're going to hate it. But if you get into
Yeah.
it expecting a Shaun of the Dead level comedy film that's got horror in it, then
Yeah.
you might enjoy yourself. I know that it's not the best, but I love it. Absolutely love it.
I think that's why. Like, I don't say I hate all sort of silly films, but
Mhm.
I think Curtis enjoys silliness more than me. Like
Yeah.
Shaun the Dead is silly, but it's got a bit more heart, I think. But you love Curtis, like really naff, like over
Oh,
the top silly, and I
yeah,
tighten
Dead
up a little
Slow,
bit, you
Brain
know.
Dead. I love them. I love my horror bit of comedy. But I absolutely love this one. It is something I was going to pick, but it didn't quite make the cut. But I adore this movie. I actually go back to it a lot. Reece Shearsmith is one of my favorite actors, and it's one of my favorite performances. His scream in this movie is just top class. Probably one of the best screamers you will ever see in cinema. When he's in the toilet, and then you just see because he's got a fear of moths for some
Mhm.
reason in the film. He's terrified of moths, and he ends up in this toilet with hundreds of moths, and the scream he does is so good. And I just love how battered he gets throughout the film. He gets his jaw broken, his nose broken. At one point, he can't speak. He's got a crap comb over. I don't know whose choice that was, but I absolutely adore this film from the moment it starts, to the moment it finishes. I love it, and like you said, Barry, about like From Dusk Till Dawn, it does have that great switch, and I love both ends. Similar to From Dusk Till Dawn, I love both.
Mhm.
Like the start, you've got this great little funny like a buddy movie, like the brothers. They've got great
Yeah.
banter back and forth, and you kind of just enjoy their interactions. And then obviously the second half with the farmer is just bonkers. Probably one of my favorite bits from the film is when Andy Serkis gets his toes that are still inside his shoe cut off with a shovel, and
Oh,
then
that's the brother. That's the brother.
Reese, the brother
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
yes, and then he Andy Serkis is the one that picks up the shoe, isn't it? And
Yeah,
kind
and then
of,
the sock and the
yes,
foot fall out. Yeah.
That's
Um,
that's got a bit of Severance about it, isn't it? With
yes,
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 definitely.
the
similar
foot
vibe.
in the fridge.
And a fantastic kill in the film as well when their friend,
The spine,
it's still attached to the head, or the head is attached to. It's fantastic.
yes.
Is it made by the same people who did Inside Number 9?
No,
Well,
it's just
no,
Shea
Just the
Smith.
actor.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
man. Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant.
Right, because I thought I thought I was going to revisit it, almost revisit it, thinking, oh, if it's written by them, because I'm
Oh
a
yeah,
big
it is.
fan
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Inside
yeah.
Number 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, great pick. What do you got then, Kurt? Final pick.
okay. This is actually a really good one. You'll both love this one. No shit from you now, Jenks. I have got one of the most underrated. Now, it's hard to call it underrated just because it's quite unknown. And I've got Ghostwatch, directed by Leslie Manning. This was a BBC TV movie. And simply because I don't think hardly anyone has seen this movie. It's not a
I've
movie
seen
I
it.
watched
Love it.
until a few
No.
years ago. Barry, have you seen this one?
Is it the one from 2018?
No, it's
You-
90 something.
It's like a
90.
fake documentary
Oh right, yeah, I've seen that. The doc, yeah, I've seen that.
with
Yeah,
Yes.
Michael Parkinson.
Michael
and,
Parkinson,
yes.
Yvette or Yvonne or Yvette something.
Yes,
Yes.
Sarah Green
Craig
and all,
Charles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that one, I'd say up until about last year where it was released on Blu-ray from 101 Films,
Mhm.
no one ever told me about this film growing up. I'd never even heard of it. A friend of mine recommended it. And it was around the time when it was released on Blu-ray, so I bought it and watched it probably about 2 years ago for the first time. And I know this one was a controversial one when it came out. And watching as an adult, it still had that same effect on me. Basic premise, this was supposed to look like a real life Halloween event on Halloween on the BBC. Now, what it is it's basically the Enfield Poltergeist. A group of presenters from the BBC go and investigate this house. You've got a mother and their two daughters with strange going on. So they send a TV crew there to investigate it, and things start happening
And it's meant
as
to
they're
be
in the
live,
house.
isn't it?
It's meant to be live, but the problem is, right, is at the start of the show, they did say that this is a retelling, it's fake, it's not real, but people tuning into TV back then, if they tuned in a little bit late, they didn't see that warning.
Did they
And
have a
they
warning? I can't
also,
remember.
they did give
That's
a
what I always
warning,
see
yeah.
live.
They
I
did
can't
give a
remember.
warning.
I watched it live.
Yeah, me too.
And the other thing, right, is they had a telephone line that came up. If you've got any stories or any explanations, phone this number. And when you phone the number, it's supposed to tell you this is not real, this is fiction. But the line was blocked up because so many people were calling it. So people who missed the opening and couldn't get through on the phone, they were screwed. Everybody thought this was real. It's got the most Ofcom complaints
Ofcom,
of
yeah,
all time.
complaints.
And I was even reading online, right, that there was PTSD cases from this movie, from kids who had watched it when they were young and they couldn't quite get over it.
Yeah.
And that's how scary this movie is. Now, obviously, I weren't as scared as I would have been if I watched it live when I was that age. But it is a really good, scary watch. It was one of the main inspirations for James Wan to base Conjuring 2 on the Enfield Poltergeist. Now, I know that's a real case, but he actually based it on this film more so than the actual case.
Is that right?
Yes. So
It's
I'll
amazing.
say he based it on the case of the Enfield Poltergeist, but he inspired the movie from this, if that makes
The
sense.
actual Ghostwatch itself.
And yeah, what's great about it, like I said, you've got well-known faces in the BBC, Michael Parkinson, Craig Charles, and they're all having banter with each other. They're all making mistakes. They're saying things wrong, and they're just having fun with it. And the actors inside the house, the mother and the two daughters, they're great. And they set up this great backstory for the ghost as well, because they keep telling the girls all the noises they hear in the house are pipes. So they start calling the ghost Pipes. And it's one of the best names for a ghost ever, Pipes. And They don't show you much. It is a slow burn. Don't go in looking to be terrified from the offset. It's not Conjuring 2. It's a really slow, creepy, unsettling movie.
Yeah.
But they do. I think there's about between 12 to 14 times if you look, similar to what they did, the Haunting Hill House.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The man in
it's
by
yes,
the
it's
window.
it's a lot more subtle than that. But I think there's about 12 sightings of the ghost throughout the film. But yeah, like I said, I watched this one late. I didn't experience that terror of watching it as a kid, but I still loved it. It was still creepy, and I've gone back to it about 5 times since.
Have you seen this, Barry? You said you saw it live, Barry, is
Yeah, I
it?
watched it live, yeah, and I was
That's
terrified as a
awesome.
kid. I loved to be terrified when I was younger. I watched all horror
Yes,
films. So I grew up loving that stuff. So even though it terrified me at the time, I wanted to be terrified. I wanted my kids to experience the same terror. So I made my kids watch it last year for Halloween. So we watched it on Halloween night after they were trick or treating, came home, and I put this on, but I didn't tell them. I said, right, this is a real documentary, and
I love
it's
that.
people from the BBC. So it's like real people that are
How
doing
old
this
are they?
documentary. Gracie is 9 and Jack is 13. So they were 8
Oh,
and 12 at the time.
right.
I think it's a
That's
12
brilliant.
anyway, so it's not scary. It's not supposed to be that scary. But they watched it, and Jack doesn't get scared that often. But after we watched that, he's like, "Can I sleep in your bedroom tonight?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"No, you can't. You have to experience what I experienced. So get to your room." But yeah, they loved it. They thought it was fantastic. A couple of years ago, well, about 11 years ago, in 2013, the America tried to replicate Ghostwatch, so they brought out
really.
something called WNUF Halloween Special, and it's the exact same storyline. Well, when I say exact same, almost identical storyline.
Is it good?
It's decent, but it's
Yeah.
nowhere near as good as Ghostwatch because that's a classic. You're not going to be
Yeah.
able
Yes,
to
of
replicate
course.
it anymore
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's basically like the Blair Witch Project, what they done for the first time.
Yeah.
So Ghostwatch was the first to do what it done, and then after that, anyone who goes to do it again, it just won't quite hit the mark.
No, and people be suspicious. They're very
Yeah,
much more skeptical. It's
Yes,
got a little
times
bit
have
of
changed.
it's got yeah. People are more susceptible back then because you didn't have YouTube. People faking things. You
mhm,
genuinely believed it. It's got a little bit of Late Night with the Devil,
yeah,
which I really
Yes.
enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, that's not trying to convince you it's real, but I watched this on my own as well, Barry, and completely on my own. I was young. I didn't see that warning you're talking about. Maybe I
yeah.
tuned in a bit later, but I thought, is this real? I genuinely thought because, funnily enough, Sarah Green, the one who gets sucked into the cupboard at the end, I don't think we saw her much after that. I think it was the end of her career anyway. So you're thinking she must be dead,
She's still in
you
the
know.
cupboard.
Yeah, she's in the cupboard. I love this. I bought it on DVD when it came on. It didn't have the same impact as a grown up,
Mhm.
but I do like it. I do love it. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Uh, right, my last pick then. I'm not going to do spoilers in this one because it's a very recent one. I was going to do now you've done your picks. I was going to do Severance because I'm a massive fan of
Yes.
Severance, but we've already done a video on Severance, and I think you've mentioned it in another
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
before, so I'll have to save that for a little bit more time. But I've got Last Night in Soho. It's very new, Baby Driver, which we're not fussed about. It stars Thomasin Mackenzie, and she's this sort of she's obsessed with fashion, the 60s, and she's following the footsteps of her grandmother, and she goes to London to make it in the fashion industry, and she's obsessed with the 60s, with Cilla Black and the glamour and things like that. But she's having a tough time, and she's kind of like a psychic. So when she goes to bed, she kind of wakes up into the body of this a woman called Sandy, played by Anna Ball, sort of over smoking, sort of talent agent. You know, the sort of typical. You got Terence Stamp in it. But what I love about it is it's like a ghost story, a very quite straightforward ghost murder mystery. So she's trying to solve this thing with her gifts, but it is absolutely stunning. Now, I don't care about fashion. I don't care about the swinging 60s, apart from Austin Powers. But I was mesmerized by it, and there's a true filmmaker when it can make you fall in love with something you didn't even care about. Like with a bit like Tarantino, I've never liked gangster films, but I love all Tarantino films. I never like westerns, but I like Tarantino ones. They can do
Yes.
that thing, and I think Edgar Wright is the closest thing we've got to Tarantino, in my opinion. All his films are very layered, like Shaun of the Dead. You could watch it hundreds of times and you find something new. But yeah, I love this film. What do you think, Kurt? Agree?
Yes, it's a very special movie. I love it. Unfortunately, this one did get lost in COVID. I think it kind of tanked at the box office.
Yeah,
But everyone is phenomenal in this film. It's got some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. It's just I was just like bewitched by it, and what I mean by that as well, like the coloring of Suspiria and the music and the
yeah,
charm, it has those similar sort of elements. So for me, I was just soaked, and it's got Edgar Wright stamp. It looks like an Edgar Wright movie. It's great. And a fun fact about this one, right? I don't know if you know this, but before the movie was even written or made, Tarantino gave Edgar Wright the name of the movie. He said, it'd be a great name for a movie, Last Night in Soho. And then Edgar Wright went away, made this film, and obviously called it what he called it.
Mhm.
yeah. Legend. Have you seen it, Barry?
I have, yeah, yeah. I thought it was really good. I think the weakest. I'll start with the weakest point because there only has one, and that is the ending was to me a little bit obvious. I felt like the ending was an ending I was expecting to happen,
Yeah,
and it did, but it was still good. I still enjoyed the ending of the film. But like you guys said, I was mesmerized by this film. I think Thomasin McKenzie, who plays the main character in it, she was like part of this. She was the role. She was born to play the role.
yeah,
Yes.
And it was her going back and forward to the 60s to the modern day. I was going with her. I was on that journey with her to and from the 60s. And it looked like it was the 60s. That's how great the cinematography was. The set
yes,
design was amazing. The dance scenes and the ball and the dance club, fantastic. It just took me back. We've got a place called the Barrowlands in Glasgow. And it took me, I wasn't around in the 60s, of course, but it took me back to what that would have looked like in the 60s. And because I've seen
Yes.
photographs of it, and it's just, you can actually smell the 60s from the film. That's how
yeah,
detailed it was. And it
Yes.
definitely has that Edgar Wright look and feel to it. It's brilliant. And I feel like not only was it lost in COVID, I feel like it's not his strongest film. And I think people will compare a director's new movie to their previous work. And I
yeah,
think because Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead are just so iconic, I
Yes.
think that's why some people say, "Oh, The World's End's not that good," and we're like, "Well, it actually is. It's just not as good as the
Yes.
first two."
yes. You're
And it's
right.
the same with this one, Baby Driver, as well as Scott Pilgrim versus the World. All fantastic films, all individual in their own right. And I think if he made each of these films first, you would think they're masterpieces.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
because you're comparing them to Shaun of the Dead
Yeah,
and Hot
Yes.
Fuzz, it's hard to compete with that. But those movies aside, Last Night in Soho, underrated, 100%.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think,
Spot on
yeah.
there, mate. Um,
You carry. Sorry.
thing I will say is I am extremely excited for Edgar Wright's Running Man with Glenn Powell, I believe he's cast.
Yes.
I heard that, yeah.
Really, if anyone can do that, great. It's Edgar Wright. I
Is
would
it
trust
going to be
any
a?
movie in his
Is it
hands.
gonna be like a remake of the Schwarzenegger version or the Stephen King one?
It's going to be more faithful to the book than the film.
Yeah, because
That's what
it's
I've read.
drastically different. I
Yes.
supposedly I've never read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Great picks there. Cheers for that, Barry. Do you want to give your channel a plug for us?
Well, yeah, me. Sorry, yeah. Just
Yeah, yeah,
before I tell you my channel, I want to just quickly tell you one other pick that I won't.
Yes. I
I'm
yeah,
not
was
going
going
to
yeah.
to
go
ask
into it.
you.
I won't go into it all because it will take a bit longer. But for anyone watching this video and you want another recommendation, I do recommend another film from 2008 called Hush, about a man who puts up posters on the bus stops around the motorways, and he takes his girlfriend with him one night, and she gets taken on the back of a lorry, and he has to go and chase the lorry to get her. Have you heard of that before?
I
Hush.
No,
don't think I've seen this.
I've never heard of that.
Whoa.
That sounds good.
I should have mentioned that one instead, but Hush, 2008, look it up. It's a great British horror
Do you
film
know
on
what,
the road.
Barry? He lives quite far away from me, right? So we hook up about every month, maybe. I reckon we should save that for when we,
Go on the
uh,
road.
yeah,
Yes.
when we hook up next. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that sounds good. I thought you were going to say the one with the deaf woman. It's called
Hush,
Hush.
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
See
no,
that?
no, 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 no,
No.
not that one. This is
Right, yeah.
So,
So yeah, give your channel a plug and Wolfman Got Nards.
Yeah, well, you've just plugged it for me. So yeah, my channel's called Wolfman's Got Nards. I mostly talk about horror things. I think 95% horror. So if you're into kind of movie updates or horror updates, movie reviews, rankings, Halloween and Scream, I do podcasts for those as well. Do live podcasts. So Halloween's called Double Scoops, and my Scream one is called The Morgue. They're both kind of innuendos for things that happen in the Scream and the Halloween franchise. So yeah, do podcasts for those. So just all things horror, basically. And I'm Scottish as well. So
Yeah.
if you can understand these guys, then it'll be a walk in the park for me. So come over to my channel, guys.
Oh, that's brilliant. We really appreciate you coming on. It's an honor.
My pleasure.
We're pretty new to all this, so having you guys as a bit of a veteran,
Yes.
you've been doing it for over 10 years easily, I think,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mhm.
Like I said, if you enjoy, if you want to check out Barry's channel, Wolfman Got Nards, subscribe. And if you enjoy ours, we do very similar horror reviews. Anything to do with horror, basically, reactions, you name it. Please subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.